Welcome to The Source, a Waterbury Public Schools podcast dedicated to discussing relevant and timely topics that impact Waterbury Public Schools as well as our educational community. I'm your host, Dr. Verna Ruffin, Superintendent of Waterbury Public Schools. And with me today, we're excited to have our Waterbury Public Schools Teacher of the Year and our Waterbury Public Schools Administrator of the Year. Our two special guests, Ms. Laura Thomas, Waterbury Teacher of the Year, and Mr. Sean Mosley, Waterbury's Administrator of the Year. Ms. Thomas, I'll start with you and several questions. First, I want to congratulate you.
Thank you.
And welcome you here today as our Teacher of the Year. So thank you very much for being with us. Ms. Thomas is a science teacher at Waterbury Career Academy. And I want to ask you, what inspired you to become an educator? And how has this initial inspiration evolved throughout your career?
Well, originally, I was not planning on becoming a teacher. I was actually planning on a career in the medical field. And as part of that, I worked on medical missions in a few different countries, but primarily based in Ghana. Well, we had a mission where we went up. We were working in the eastern part of the country in what's known as the Volta Valley. And when you set up with a mobile clinic, typically you'll pick the largest available building in the area. A lot of times it's the school. So we're setting up in a school, and I look out the window, and there's a boy in a school uniform who's maybe 8 years old. And he is hacking at the weeds with a machete. And it's more than half his size, and I'm looking out thinking, we don't even let kids his age play with safety scissors, all right. And I asked our nurse, I said, what is he doing? She said, that's how he pays for this. So it turns out in Ghana, public schools are free, but you must have a uniform. You must have school supplies. Many families are too poor even for that. But a student can do chores for their school, and then they can get their uniform, their shirt and their shorts, and they can get their notebooks and they can get their pencils, but they have to do their chores. So here we are, it's 8 in the morning. This child's about to have school outside for the day because his school's been taken over by our clinic, but he's still doing manual labor with an incredibly sharp object, and he did that every day. And the more we traveled, the more we started seeing kids who were doing incredible things just to get to go to a school. And the schools there are a little different. There are no windows, there's usually no roof, and half the time you see kids that are actually writing on the walls because there's nowhere else to write. And I started looking at folks that were doing so much just to get an education. And I looked back at the educators that I'd had, who were incredible, and I started shifting my focus. And when I came to Waterbury, I wasn't really sure I was going to stay here. I looked. There was a girls' school in Monrovia, Liberia, that had just opened, science and technology, and I thought, ooh, that sounds really neat. That was back when Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was their president. They had just done so much for women. I thought, ooh, I think that's where I want to go. And I started meeting my students here. And I saw other students who were doing incredible things just to get to go to school. I met students who were living with their relatives and sleeping on couches. I met students who had lost a parent and students whose parents were incarcerated. I met students who were fighting through chronic illnesses. I met so many students who, even here in the US, were going through these incredible struggles. I love being a teacher, but what's more incredible is that my students always inspire me. And that's one of the best things. I never have to worry, am I making a difference? I already know. And that's the best thing about being here.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's very inspiring.
Thank you.
Yes. So talk a little bit about the innovative teaching strategies and approaches that you employ to engage students and to promote learning. You talked about some of the challenges that students may have, but you've seen some amazing results.
Thank you. Well, a big part of it, my background, along with being interested in medicine, is in neuroscience. So one of the great things was in college, I didn't actually take any education classes as an undergraduate, full disclosure, but I did take classes about learning, how humans learn, how our brains work. So knowing that, I always wanted to employ strategies in my classroom that were going to use the most with our brain. Now, we always say, you learn best by doing. But literally what that means is we learn best when we're using more of our brain, when we can see things, we can visualize, when we can hear things, we're using our auditory cortex, and most importantly, when we're working with our hands. So your fine motor control. This is back here, your cerebellum. If you are integrating that into what you're doing in your classroom, you're going to get better results. Now, as I've gone on as an educator, because I've been here a while, this has sort of formed into the idea of UDL, Universal Design for Learning, where we're using more of our brain, and more importantly, we're appealing to a neurodiverse group of learners. We're employing strategies in our classrooms that appeal to all the different ways that people are able to learn. By doing that, we're able to bring more kids in so that they get more excited. Plus, I love doing labs. I absolutely, and that's the best thing about being in chemistry, because I get to blow things up. We light things on fire, we play with acids and bases, we do cool things with pretty colors, and that's what makes it fun, and that's what keeps our kids engaged, and that's what really keeps them coming back to the sciences. That's one of the things that makes this so much fun.
Awesome. Students are very fortunate to have you as a teacher. So in your opinion, and as you're blowing things up, what's the role of technology in our modern world?
Technology has a good place. It does. And I mean, certainly during the pandemic, I got better. I am not the best. My students, I know if they see this, all of my wonderful students who are in the IT strand who save me every single day, they're going to laugh because they know I'm not the best with technology. Also, a shout out to Tony Judah for saving me. And yeah, every time. But that said, having Google Classroom means that every lesson that I teach, my kids have a copy of my slides. Every single thing we have, they have access to every piece of information we have, and they can't lose it. Beautiful websites, wonderful resources, all of that can be listed. My students can access it at any time. They have this wealth of information that they can get. There are drawbacks. So I will say in my classroom, whenever possible, we do a lot of things on paper. And we found that especially when it comes to some of the calculations that go along with chemistry, it helps to write things out. So really the best thing with technology is using what we have, but also using some of our traditional methods that work well and finding a good blend between them.
Good. Not exactly on on my card here, but do you have a comment about AI?
I have had a few students who have tried that. It's very difficult to use AI with labs. That is a very difficult thing to do when you have very specific things you've done in the classroom. It's very hard. I think that it has a place. And certainly there are times where AI can be used as a wonderful tool. But I also think when it comes to our students' education, it's very, very wise to encourage them to write things on their own, to get feedback from their peers, from their teachers, and to grow as individual writers. And I think that is what we should be emphasizing.
Thank you for sharing that. Any particular memorable success stories and achievements that you'd like to share about your teaching experience?
Well, I have a lot of good stories. I do. Although it would be very difficult to claim them as a success because I work as a team. I mean, teachers, we work as a team. We're part of a large group. So when I look at my students who are doing incredible things, was I a part of that? I hope so. But I also know there are wonderful teachers that they were with. Now I could tell you, I mean, we have students who are in Ivy League schools. I'm very proud of that. And encouraging that, and in some cases writing the letters of recommendation for that. But that's my students' achievement. I have students who have gone on to have incredible careers. We have folks that are doing research in molecular biology. I have folks who have chemistry degrees now. That's awesome. One of my folks who was one of my earliest students at Wallace just got her law degree. And seeing that is really neat. But I also know I'm only a small part of that journey. I will, however, say, in the last few years, I'm seeing a large number of students who in college are going on missions trips, medical missions trips to different nations. Like right now, I know Christy Rosso, if you remember our valedictorian from last year, just told me earlier this week, she's going to Brazil this summer. I know we've had a few students who've gone to Ecuador, who've gone to Argentina, who've gone to the Dominican Republic on medical missions trips. And I'm hoping I did inspire that. That I would definitely consider a success.
Absolutely. I'm pretty sure you did, because that was an amazing experience.
Yes, very much so.
You talked about the team, so there's a lot of collaboration.
Yes.
What does that look like?
Well, at our school, certainly collaborating with the other science teachers, that's something I'm very lucky with. We have an absolutely amazing team. And we all have what we're good at. We all have our specialties. But I'm very fortunate because I work with men and women who just have this incredible rapport with the students. We collaborate very, very well. I'm very grateful for our instructional time. There's also a fair amount of collaboration that happens after hours, but I'm lucky because I work with folks who are great communicators and who are just as passionate about our students as I am. I'm also lucky I'm part of the doctoral program at University of Bridgeport, and I'm lucky because I've been able to meet with other chemistry teachers throughout the state through the program. So seeing not only what we're doing in Waterbury, but what we're doing in other towns in Connecticut, and being able to compare that and talking about what folks are doing. So I've been pretty lucky to get to meet with other really cool science teachers.
Awesome. Looking ahead, what changes or developments do you foresee in the field of education, and how do you plan to adapt to them?
Well, I think the big one for Waterbury now is going to be the cell phone pouches. I'm not sure yet. I'd like to see what happens with that. I know that's what all my kids are talking about. Oh my gosh, Miss, what are we going to do? We're not going to have our phones. I'm looking forward to that a little bit. They probably won't appreciate me saying that, but I think one of the challenges we'll have is making that shift. What do we do now that that's not allowed in class? So I think that'll be one of the challenges, and how that's going to shape what our classrooms look like a little bit. Certainly come the fall, that will be a change for us.
Yeah, a big change.
I think it's going to work out, but I think those first few weeks, that's going to be a little interesting.
Yeah, I agree with you. Of course, we're working on the implementation part of that as a
Absolutely.
team, with a lot of input from people that are going to make that happen for the fall. So thank you so much for sharing and
Thank
for
you.
your commitment and dedication.
And
Thank
for
you.
yours. Thank you.
Mr. Mosley,
Yes, good afternoon.
welcome. Our Administrator of the Year, Mr. Mosley, is the Vice Principal at Early College High School at Crosby High School. What inspired you to pursue a career in educational leadership, and how has your leadership philosophy evolved over time?
Well, thank you. Thank you again, Dr. Ruffin, for inviting us here to The Source. Congratulations to you, Ms. Thomas.
Congratulations
Such a
to
wonderful
you.
honor. And I also want to commend the students here at Waterbury Arts Magnet School who are doing such a great job at putting this production together. My educational inspiration to be an educational leader comes from a genuine concern for students and their well-being. But not only their students, families, and the community. I was born in Waterbury, I was raised in Waterbury, I live in Waterbury, and I have a vested interest in the success of our students and the well-being of the families in their community. And I really feel that in this role, I can have an impact in helping students reach their fullest potential. I think that one of the things our students challenge with is imposter syndrome. They're in spaces and they're in places, and a lot of them feel like that because they're from Waterbury, they aren't as good, or they don't have the capabilities as students from other cities and towns. But I think differently. I think our students can do just about anything. I think our students are amazing. Ms. Thomas has talked about many success stories of some of her students. I've had success stories as well, and I think our district is phenomenal in terms of producing the best and the brightest. I was a Waterbury Public School student. I think I turned out okay. So I like to be in spaces where I can help assist students beyond the classroom, and I think that this role has afforded me that opportunity. As far as my philosophy, I believe in being a model and also leading by example. I would never, in my role as an educational leader, ask someone to do something that I wouldn't be willing to do myself. And I think that that's one of the essential qualities of being a good leader. From the leaders I've studied, those that I admire, they're all servant leaders. They all lead by example, and that's my philosophy.
Okay. Thank you. Well, we know that you are also an attorney, you're a teacher, you're an administrator, and you're an alderman. How do you prioritize and balance the various responsibilities of your role as an administrator and these many other roles in your career?
It's a great question. I think the term that a lot of students and people use nowadays is locked in, right?
Yep,
I'm very
that's
much
right.
locked into being an administrator during most of the day. The other roles are roles that I serve in, outside time and in other times. But, really being an administrator is something I enjoy doing. The time, the energy, the efforts. Every day I leave work, I feel like I've contributed to society, and I feel like I've made some impact in the lives of our youth. So I'm really locked in for most of the day, for pretty much all week, into my role as the administrator at Early College High School.
Awesome. Can you discuss a significant challenge you faced as an administrator and how you navigated that?
Certainly. So I think with Early College High School, coming on board halfway during the first year, and really helping to build the program was a challenge. It was the first time we've had Early College High School in Waterbury. There are other models across. There's some in the state, and then there are other in other regions of the United States. But this is the first one in Waterbury. So I think building the program and working with the district, working with our staff, our teaching staff, and really helping to create the culture of success. I often have to remind our staff and remind the community that we are in the process of making diamonds. And so to make diamonds, you have to have the right amount of pressure to create the diamonds. And we set high expectations for our students. We support our students, we nurture our students, but we believe that every student has the opportunity to be successful. Whether they take it or not is up to them, but we like to provide as many students with the opportunity as possible. And I think just building the model and communicating success on a daily basis to our students at times can be challenging, especially when they're not hearing the language of success in other facets of their life. So I find it's our mission and our goal and our challenge to speak success, to talk success, and to show our students outcomes that they probably had never imagined in their wildest dreams.
Well, congratulations on our first class of
Yes.
graduating this year
Yes.
with an associate's as well as with their diploma in a few days.
Yes.
Can you share an example of that successful initiative or program that you've implemented to improve student outcomes? And of course, you talked a little bit about Early College High School, but this is your first graduating class.
Yes, we're excited. We have 11 students this year out of the 15 who have graduated with their associates, and they're also finishing with high school diploma in about a week or so. We're just so excited. We're thrilled. All of them have been accepted into college, and I mean, it's just amazing seeing them grow up as from freshmen to seniors, and the different directions and pathways that they're taking. One of the things that we have developed with our Early College High School is we've instituted an innovative summer learning component. I truly believe, from my experience, being in summer programs and also working in summer programs, that if you really want to keep students engaged all year, you gotta create opportunities in the summer. So we have a summer program that we have implemented for incoming ninth graders to help teach them and acclimate them to the culture of our program. It allows them to get to know a few of the instructors that are in the program. It allows them to get to know the physical plant of our building. We also bring our students to post-university in the summer, so they start to get a sense of post-university early on. So I think summer learning components are essential and they're crucial. Also, this past summer, through the assistance of City of Waterbury and the district, many of our students were afforded the opportunity to intern in various city departments. And one of our students, Sinclair Hudson, I want to give Sinclair a shout out, was actually one of your interns,
She is.
Dr. Ruffin. And we had so many more that were in our city departments. And I was very proud to see them operating in those professional spaces, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. The in-school experiences are one thing, but if we can get kids acclimated and prepared for college and career, then we're doing our job.
Absolutely. Well, looking ahead, what do you see as some of the biggest opportunities and challenges facing educational leadership, and how would you plan to address them?
Well, I think in the immediate In the immediacy, obviously with ESSER funding nationwide exhausting, districts are going to have to be creative at implementing programming, at implementing initiatives that have helped over the last 4 years. And I know Waterbury Public Schools have some great plans in place, but I think as administrators, we're going to have to be creative. We're going to have to keep our foot on the gas and not lose our focus in providing our students with the best opportunities. I think overall, in addition to that, you talked about AI. AI is obviously something that we're all wrestling with, teachers, administrators, school communities. Also technology, right? I do also understand the cell phone policy, and not just cell phone policy, but the way in which our world and our students interact with technology. We're going to have to think differently as school communities. We've learned more about the brain. We see the good things with technology and then the not so good things. So we have to take the good things and use them to our advantage in assisting our students. I also think one thing that's always a challenge for school communities is, as society changes, the expectation for our youth outside of school changes. We have to, in the world in which we're in 2024, prepare our students for a world in which specialized training for employment is essential. And I know there are a lot of debates about whether or not students need to go to college after high school, and I understand the different arguments, but I firmly believe that in this economy, in 2024, you need specialized training, whether it's a professional school, whether it's an apprenticeship program for a trade, whether it's a traditional four-year college or a two-year community college. You need training, you need specialized training, and I think it's our duty and mission, not just for early college, high school, but as an entire district to prepare our students for that experience. And it's an ongoing challenge.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate both of you being on The Source today. It has been my pleasure and my honor. Our district is being led and recognized for two outstanding leaders within our district, and you represent hundreds and thousands more that are looking not only at you, but also share some of your values. Thank you so much for impacting our students in such a way that will change their lives forever. I really appreciate you. This will conclude our session of The Source. Until next time.